Well, hey, life groups. I hope you are excited to be together again and to be able to have another conversation about what we've been up to as we've been studying the book of Acts on Sunday mornings. I actually got to join a life group that I don't normally participate in recently, and just loved the opportunity to hear stories from some people who this was their first time, others who I've known for ages and have been part of the group for a long time. But just as people shared honestly, vulnerably, asked tough questions, shared their stories, encouraged one another, prayed for each other. It's just a beautiful thing that we get to do when we gather together like this. And so I just want to encourage you and hope you have a great experience together tonight as you discuss the story of Herod that we looked at on Sunday. We actually, on Sunday, looked at, it's found in Acts chapter 11 and 12. The story of Herod is actually, we looked at two stories. We called it sort of a sandwich story. The first story that begins and ends, kind of like two slices of bread, this sandwich story, is the story of the church in Antioch responding to a warning that there's a famine coming. And as they consider the precarious situation of the Jesus community in Jerusalem, that we're going to be most vulnerable, they decide to rally around them and raise some money and get some food and send it to them. It's a short, simple story, but it's a beautiful story that celebrates just the community and the empathy and love and compassion that the church showed to people in need. The far meatier part of the sandwich was the story in the middle, the story of Herod. Herod was the king over Judea, and he was in a position of immense power, but he was an incredibly insecure and self-absorbed, egotistical person who thrived on just seeking people's approval and praise and just being popular. And because the people of Judea so hated the church, he started persecuting the church and even killed James, one of Jesus' 12 disciples, by the sword. And then he tries to kill Peter, which is a fascinating story you can get into. There's lots of interesting stuff in that story. He's unsuccessful, but the story all builds towards this moment where Herod is once again deciding the fate of, in this case, the people of Tyre and Sidon, neighboring cities, who depend on Judea for their food supply. And Herod is sitting in this judgment seat, and he's going to make a decree to withhold food from these people to prove that he's a god, that he has absolute power over life and death. As we compare and contrast these two stories, this simple, quiet story of humble service to those in need versus the story of somebody who just is, elevating himself and trying to be a god and trying to be all powerful by lording power over people and withholding life-giving supply from them. It invited us to consider our own lives and to what degree are we embracing a life of quiet, humble, selfless, sacrificial service to others, serving God by serving others, and to what degree do we sometimes try to play God by just serving our own self-interest? It's a heavy question, and I hope that as you process this, you can be honest with yourself and with each other, and ultimately, our goal is to pursue the way of Jesus together and by God's Holy Spirit to be filled and equipped and empowered to embrace this life of loving, Jesus-shaped servanthood. So have a great conversation, and we'll see you again.